I did start recording, so maybe we should introduce ourselves. So
Sure.
this is the Rough Diamond podcast. My name is Jennifer Lopez, and I am the co-producer. And what's your name, Toria?
My name is Tori Wilson, or no, Toria Wilson, or Victoria Williston, or Tori Williston.
It changed.
You get to
Yeah.
choose.
It's pick your own adventure.
Pick your own adventure. And you get whichever name you call me by, you get that personality. So choose wisely.
Yes, do not pick Toria unless you know Toria.
Mhm.
I like that. I too have different personalities. I should name them.
What's
But my
what's your
main one is Daria Van Nice, and I am a guest of you
Yes.
guys on your
Yeah.
beautiful podcast, which I'm excited to jump into conversation and have fun and see where it goes.
Daria is a super important guest to my heart. Like, me and Daria have some history. It's almost like a dream.
Yeah,
Because
or a nightmare.
yeah.
I mean, it was a nightmare that turned out to be a really good dream, I think.
I definitely remember there being some nightmarish moments of, I think the biggest part about all of it, and we can get into more of it, the background of it, was the uncertainty of what was going to happen next.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, like that is like looking back, right?
Yeah.
In the moment, I was like pissed. So when me and Daria were like wee little babes, how old were you?
Maybe 20, maybe, I don't know, probably 19 or 20. I think I made it to 20.
Yeah.
I don't remember being a teenager, maybe 21. I don't think I could drink yet, though. So I think I was 20.
I was definitely 20. I remember.
Okay, same then. We're
Yeah,
about
yeah,
the
yeah.
same age, right?
Yeah, how old are you? Are you 44?
45.
Okay,
So
yeah.
maybe I
So
was
you
19. I was young. We were young.
we were kids,
We were
children,
babies.
little babies that thought we were like badasses.
Yeah. Yeah.
We really thought, like it said on a different podcast, she was like, "Oh, we thought we were gangsters."
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, indestructible, right? Like,
Yes.
I just don't think maybe that's just like the teenage condition, but I didn't really think of mortality in that. I probably mostly wanted to be dead, but I really didn't. I didn't really know all that. I was just thinking that nothing could touch me, I guess. But I
Yeah.
definitely used up all my 9 lives, my cat lives. So
I think like more, maybe. Like I
yeah,
literally
probably
like
more. Yeah. But that's why we're getting the energy through our health stuff now, right?
yeah, so me and Daria were in rehab together in Southern California, went 25 years ago. Crazy work. 25 years. Like I can't even believe I could 25 years have passed. I am still a
Yeah.
kid. Like what?
I am still like in a lot of that mentality of like not feeling indestructible, but I don't know what's next.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but feeling like free. I feel freer now, and we can get into this later. I think this is such a beautiful like transition to like what has happened, what has come from that, you know. That experience made sobriety in Southern California really stand out for me. Sobriety in different places was different. Like whenever I went back to Texas, first of all, I did not want to leave you guys. It was so weird because it was only 90 days.
Hmm.
And I forged such tight bonds with so many people that literally, I was telling Tori this yesterday, nobody wanted me to leave. People offered to pay my whole way to live in California, to move from Tech, to move me and my stuff
Mm.
kid from Texas to California. Two people.
Hmm.
And of course, it was a lot of pressure and I declined because I was a kid and it was just not the vibe. But to forge that tight of bonds with people to where like I love you so much, Daria. Like this experience is just being able to talk to you today, being able to talk to you on the phone last week. For me, it's such a profound experience. I'm so grateful for you. So just like
Mm.
gratitude and love and everything else because we did have such a tight bond because we were together every day, laughing about stupid
Hmm.
shit every day. You listening to me go on about my stupid ass crush every day. Doing the hard work, right, together, side by side, and having that friction, it changed me as a human. It made my current sobriety possible, even though it
Mm.
was rocky in between, you know? What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, I mean, first, I love you too, and I'm glad we made it alive and that we're,
100%.
living our dream and being health and emulating health and changing our mindsets. And but my experience was I really honor that time, but it took me a few more years to get to a mindset of a bottom where I could start thinking of sobriety. And I mean, I left that place, which is funny, with a boy to go back to the Bay Area to, do more drugs and figure it out on my own, which is funny that I left with a boy because I'm totally gay, but there's not much straight about me, but at the time, it seemed like a good idea. Like a lot of things, right? And for our relationship of friendship there, I really appreciated, I always had felt bad because there was such care there and we were like in the trenches together. And at the same time, there were moments where obviously addiction went out before any care, um, before even care for myself, right? So, how much I could actually hold the friendship was just, it's so difficult there and being so young. But now to have a chance 25 years later to reconnect and even connect on different things on health and fitness and this podcast of talking about where we were and like where we are now and all these crazy times in between is phenomenal that it could come full circle. But at that time, I was in a haze. I mean, I quite literally was out to lunch. I literally left rehab and put out to lunch and
Oh, true.
overdosed. And my friend had to drop me off
Oh,
at the hospital and throw me out of the car. And luckily I survived. And that was just like one of many. But I was out to lunch, I wasn't all there. So it's nice that we can sit here and talk about these things. And you're right, it kind of feels like a movie. Like when I talk about it, actually, I think um, like someone I follow is Andrew Huberman, and he talked about his life was like Kids, the movie Kids, and I
mm,
relate so much because that
Yeah.
movie's so messed up on so many levels, and yet we're like feral kids out in the 90s, just like in a society that thought heroin chic was beautiful. Like there's a lot that we could go segue into with the aesthetic and culturally and society and grunge and music and heroin. Like, why could I order heroin like a pizza, but I couldn't go get weed or alcohol? Like, so there's a
Right.
lot of things in that I think of as an adult. And believe me, I work with teenagers and I look at these teenagers and I am like, they are so young. What was I doing? How was I doing that? Who was around?
Yeah.
Why? Like what? It just baffles me. It's crazy.
It's insane to look at them and know what I did compared to just my own kids. I have two kids that are adults, 20 and 25. And they to see them and see how different their like everything was. Thank God, right?
Yeah.
But like at the
Yeah.
same time, it's like what was who was watching me? Why was nobody paying attention? And I was the person that picked up the phone whenever Daria OD'd and her friend threw her out of the car. And it is like a movie. I remember like I remember like screaming in Mike's face that he needed to take me to the hospital right the fuck now. And he was like, shut up. Mike has a wonderful way of just calming me down. Even now, 25 years later, I don't really talk to him that much, but whenever I do, he can send like a sentence and it's, oh, okay. Sorry, I was tripping. But because for whatever reason he had like that magic and we had that connection. So he was like, just breathe. Take a second, sit down. And I was like, no. I was beside myself. I was like, I'm not sitting down. You're taking me to see my friend. And I remember the visceral feeling inside of me. I remember walking down the steps and turning towards the kitchen and seeing the board where you wrote out to lunch
Mm,
and being like, no, this isn't right. Like there's something wrong. And
mm-hmm,
what for whatever reason, just that out to lunch, those three words, like it was like bum bum bum.
mm-hmm.
And then a few hours later was whenever the phone rang and I picked up the phone and it was your friend. And they did take us to the hospital. I did force them to take us to the hospital.
Oh yeah, my
Um,
friend saved quite literally saved my life, and they're doing really well now,
Good.
thankfully. But we both are. I've been with friends in other scenarios of like overdoses where the people did not want to even take them, right? They just fled the scene.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that, and this time, that, and you know what? It's not lost on me that now with fentanyl, that there wouldn't be enough time to even go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrifying. I even tell
Yeah,
like if there's something like a ball or something on the ground, I will be like, don't touch it to the kids. Like don't touch it.
yeah,
Just don't.
yeah.
And
We
so
wouldn't
like
have made it through, is
no.
basically, yeah.
But I do remember like instances where people died because nobody would take them to the hospital. We had
Mhm.
a friend, used to always hang at her house. We'd skip school. We were 16, we were just little kids.
Yeah, yeah.
And we would skip school and we would go to her house and they took instead of taking her to the hospital when she asked to go to the hospital, they took her home and her
Wow.
mom had to find her in the morning.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
That's awful.
And like but other multiple lots of times that happened. Like it wasn't
Hmm.
like that was like a one-off experience.
Oh,
That was
yeah,
that's just an example. So absolutely, your friend being brave enough to
yeah,
take you to the hospital in that moment and loving you enough to do that
yeah.
and loving you enough to call us,
Yes, that's
you
amazing.
know,
Yeah,
like to make sure that we knew what was going on. All of
yeah.
the above is like, yes, that person saved your life for sure, for
Wild.
sure.
Yeah.
It was a rough time, but I'm so grateful for that time in my life
Hmm.
because it helped me we became clinical psychologists. Let me tell you, we knew
Yeah.
everything about every single drug that they were giving us, that they were trying to give us, that they thought were thinking of giving us. Do you remember the brain scans that they were doing, these phony? Now we know that they were phony, but then in the moment they were trying to sell them as like this way to see what drugs do to your brain. Like meth eats like these big holes in your brain. Did they try to get your mom to do that?
I vaguely remember that, but maybe they wiped my brain. But it's probably for the better. I didn't, I don't need to know that part. But yeah, I think what's funny about all that is like it's amazing what modalities people will sell to really milk the parents from all the money.
A
Um,
100%.
until it's there's no more money, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, sorry, you're
Well, and especially at that place, they kind of were like, if you didn't have money, they were like, see you
yeah,
later.
you're out. They're like, oh, you could do the worst of the worst. And then as long as you had money, they're like, we'll just demote you to level one. As soon as you don't have money, even if you're doing good, they're like, sorry. Rejection is protection. I've learned that.
Yeah.
Wait, can we pause? I want to like
Mhm.
explain rejection is protection because that's something that
Yeah.
I don't I don't understand and identify with. So what do you mean by that?
Perfect. Yeah. So in my life, whenever I felt like whether it's a divorce or even a job opportunity or even maybe like moving in with someone from rehab or, whenever I have been kind of rejected, it's only in hindsight that I look back and I was like, oh my God, like I was so protected from that scenario because it
Yes.
usually falls apart in some way or it just wasn't for me. Like maybe it was for them, but it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And now, since I have those experiences as an adult, I don't take it as like personal, where I think
Right.
it's like my fault or my thing, or it's not, it's a missed opportunity because I'm like, oh no, remember, Daria, when you've been rejected, it's actually rerouted you in a better place. It wasn't
Got
for
it.
you. Yeah.
I like that. I really like that because I definitely can relate to that because in
Hmm.
my past there's been times whenever definitely in hindsight, right? Because when you're in the midst of it, ugh, you
Yeah.
cannot see that at all. But like,
No.
because that rejection is just painful. But looking back, there were times that I chased after something that was rejecting me and it was clearly rejecting me. And I
Yes.
continued to like just force it, because
Hmm.
of the situation. There was lots of situational things involved, but also I was just trying to squeeze a square peg into a round hole type
Yep.
situation. And then I look back at it and I'm like, man, if I would have just accepted the rejection, I probably could have saved myself a world of hurt, because it wasn't for me, and
Yeah. Right.
even though I had chosen it, it had chosen me at one time, and then it was no longer for me. I was not accepting that. And so that's huge. I like that. I like that. Yay.
Yeah. I have a little segue into that where, like in 2019. So right for many years before that, I'm going to try to make it a little shorter. My dad got hit by a car as a pedestrian, suffered a
Mm,
traumatic brain injury, was lucky to live. I became his instant caregiver for many years, and it took a toll on my marriage at the time. Um, I kind of got through, I got him into a nice assisted living, and I thought, like, oh, great, now I could jump into my marriage more. We're just trying to have a baby, and we took a trip, and the marriage fell apart. I won't go into the details, but it was fast and furious to divorce. It was a betrayal. It was horrible, and I was devastated. My whole life, from what I thought I was building, was just ripped out, right?
mm-hmm.
And I'm sober. She was what I thought kind of like a normal drinker, but there's a lot of drinking, a lot of like even addicted friends around. Maybe not the company I would keep if it was like my group of people, but good people nonetheless. And the long and the short of it is that I was so devastated. I thought my life was over. And yet I felt like the universe plucked me up and put me in a different group where I met someone, a fellow artist, and I started hanging out with like different types of people and artists, and then COVID hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was already in this little pod of people. And I thought in hindsight, I was like, what would have been if I was stuck in a marriage trying to get pregnant, hormonal, with people that are drinking all around me? Because especially at that time, even normies were drinking all the time, right?
Yeah.
And stuck in a pressure cooker of a situation with someone that was no longer in love with me, and just isolated with that person because I
Yeah.
didn't know that COVID was around the corner. But
Right.
yet, right before, it was like rejection is protection. Let's put you instead. My COVID experience, I know I feel horrible that mine was um, not like other people's where they had to deal with loved ones dying and everything. But I was able to, for the first time, not caregive for someone, right? Like take care of me, be with other artists, do art, and it was a wholly drastic different experience than the route my life was going. So I thought my life was over, but it was just starting in a new chapter. So you
What
never
what
know.
what is your art?
So I do photography and I do like, actually, I have it all around here. I'll show you kind of. I do photography, but as you know, like photography takes other people unless you're photographing yourself or your dog. And during COVID, I couldn't really photograph anyone but myself. So here's kind of like mixed media. Whoa, hold on. I'm
Oh,
gonna like,
cool.
it's like I put this up because I'm gonna, but it's kind of like a plaster collage mixed media, a lot of sacred geometry, a lot of sacred geometry type pieces with plaster and different things and resin. These are just starts. Um, and nothing really that's like, oh, I'm going to be a great artist, just more like keep my sanity during COVID and do something other than my photography that I love, but solo art, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me and my girls are all, every single person in this house is an artist.
You
Like
do? What
I
kind of mediums?
paint. I have this this is an older painting,
Wow, that's beautiful. I love that.
and it has my favorite part about this painting is that it has the planets, real planets here. Like if you look, there's like
Oh, wow.
Jupiter, and then
I
there's
love that.
a eye randomly, and then there's like Orion is in here, right here. If you look at the,
Oh,
and you can see the
beautiful.
stars. It is like legit Orion. I mapped it. If you ask me what my favorite color is, I will tell you it's galaxy or green, depending on
Oh,
where my
yeah.
brain is at. But I really like to paint like the sky. This is one that I'm working on that I started. I haven't really finished.
Wow, it's beautiful.
And I have more that I just like, it's just random. I have a huge painting of, it's Florence from Florence and the Machine. It's actually from a song. What is the song? I think it's called Never Let Me Go.
Oh,
It's a,
yeah.
it's a song about her drowning herself. I was going through almost divorce type situation, and whenever I first heard that song, we weren't married, but he was my fiance. He had asked me to marry him, and I just wasn't into it. His family was very dysfunctional,
Mm,
and I felt like it was a death sentence. So you're right.
mm.
Rejection is protection, and definitely was in that situation. And I was plucked up at Christmas time. Something happens to create prima materia, right?
Mm.
To bust everything down back to the normal. If I'm going off track in some way, so
Okay.
um, that I painted a painting, and it's a woman with red hair, and she's under the ocean, and the ferrymen are the dormouse and the hare from Alice in Wonderland. But then there's
Whoa.
like sharks and tortoise and fish and coral. Um,
Beautiful.
I've been working on that painting for like 1,000 years. Um,
Yeah.
and like it just randomly will sit down and mess with it and not mess with it. But my older girls um, both went to art school. They went to Booker T. Washington
Wow.
in Dallas, Texas, which is where like tons of famous people came out of that school. It's a very good school.
Wow.
Um, and then they went to Denver School of the Arts here whenever we moved.
Wow. What's their medium?
Um, everything. It's so
Yeah.
Chaka's is trash, right?
Yeah.
Like she likes to patchwork, like really rough, like derelict
Mm.
type. Well, she's very punk, right? So she has this
Yeah.
like very grungy. She's a bassist in a punk band. She's 20.
Cool.
And so she has this very grungy approach to everything, right? She was like moshing. She has a torn ACL, and her partner got her a wheelchair, and she was moshing at a show in a wheelchair. They took like professional photos,
Like,
It's ridiculous.
Sounds like definitely your children.
Yes.
And if I had children, I would hope for the same.
Well, it's funny because everybody knew that that was going to end up like with the what chocolate was going to end up like it was like predestined. Like Tori done chocolate since she was one. What do you like?
Yeah.
Would you expect anything less from that child?
No, not at all. And as she grew up, like, well, it's funny because when she was little, and because her Chaka, her 20-year-old is the same age as my oldest, my son. So,
Aw.
so I was used to a boy. So having her around was like my opportunity to have like this little princess girl, which in reality, even back then, she wasn't. She
Yeah,
wanted to be outside and being rough and tumble with my son and
sure.
her older sister and all that good stuff, which was fine. But then like I would like go to brush her hair because like I was thinking, oh, this is what little girls do. You brush their hair, and she'd be like, no. She would just fight it
The torture.
every time she could. But yeah, I mean, it's been awesome watching them grow up. But yes, I've definitely, but from the time we changed her name
Yeah,
from Alicia to Chaka,
yeah,
that's when I was like, okay, yeah, zero fucks given. I mean, even
yeah.
from like, gosh, when you guys came up to West Virginia, funny enough, I was actually looking at old pictures today, and there was a picture of her and Justin. They were karate, kung fu fighting in the living room.
I know
Grown
exactly.
man, and she's like 5 years old, and she was teeny tiny too. So she wasn't just like a regular
Yeah.
5-year-old. She was teeny tiny, like her mom, petite, and she just was like, yeah, she was going at it. She was full force, like kung fu fighting.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then my oldest daughter is like that kid is I don't even
She does
know how
everything.
she does. Yeah, she can paint. She knows how to do film. She's an actress.
Wow.
She can do music. She can sing. She
She
can
made
do.
a puppet because she wanted to be a puppeteer when she lived with me. So she made a
Wow.
puppet from scratch, and I watched her do it, and I was like, what? Like, first
Yeah.
off, who thinks of that? And she made it mechanical, like, I mean, all kinds of stuff. She's
Wow.
fantastic, amazing.
Wow. Do you
Yeah.
do art, Tori?
Um, you know, growing up, I was very artistic, and I love to be surrounded by art, and you know, drawing and writing were kind of my art mediums growing up. I
Mm-hmm.
think as I got into adulthood, I was surrounded by more proficient artists. And so
Mm-hmm.
I convinced myself that it wasn't my thing and that it was their
Yeah.
thing. So I'm not practiced in it, to be completely honest, but I love art. I love music.
Yeah.
You know, I was having a moment, meditation, and putting in what my frequency was going to be for the day yesterday. And I said, I will surround myself with art and beauty, and that is what my life will be, is art and beauty.
Mm,
Nothing else can penetrate
I
that
love that.
force field is going to be art and beauty, and I'm going to find it in everything around me. But as far as like creating it, I not in a traditional sense, no, I don't necessarily paint, but I mean like I do like to do arts and crafts and stuff, and when I do it, I do a pretty good job of it, but it's not something that stirs me in my soul like I think it does maybe you or Jennifer.
Tori's art is
Yeah.
planting.
Is ranting?
Is planting, not
Oh.
rant. It's also ranting. It's also ranting, but it has to be the rant has to be so it's a conditional rant situation.
True.
It's that so it's not all the time, but planting you could do all the time.
That's true. Yeah, I love to grow
Yeah.
things and
That's an
nurture
art form.
things. I'm uh on my resume it says one of my hobbies or whatever is I'm a cultivator of plants and people.
Oh, I love that.
So
So,
yeah.
I work with plants, and one thing that came to me, speaking of the moringa and nettle, stinging nettle is like growing all over. And I don't know how it came into my head, but as I sit here, because of my ADHD, I like to fidget or kind of stand and move, but I don't want to be like, weird on the podcast. So I have these nettle like stems, right?
Hmm.
And one of the art forms I just kind of learned about, but never have done, and I'm probably terrible at it, and I don't even know if I'm doing it right, is you can make fibers out of these and you can twine them into bracelets. And
Cool.
I've been really into, well, I haven't really made much of anything with it, but it's therapeutic to even just like shred these into string
Mm-hmm.
and then dry them and see what comes about. But I think this is pretty amazing in the sense of you brought up something about like, well, how we can get in our heads, especially around other artists, like that seem more professional or seasoned in their modality of art, that we can easily get in our head of like, oh, I'm not that, I'm not good. And one thing I wanted to do with like getting away from photography was to jump into a new modality and like not have to be good at something, to just for the sake of playing, right?
Yeah.
Can I just play? And usually when I can play and not worry about the outcome, then it somehow does become good, or I don't care if it isn't, But that's been the challenge as an adult, is to just be curious and play without this productivity, without this outcome, and trying
Right.
to get back to that. And when you said like, well, I want to be surrounded in art and beauty, I'm like, yeah. And how's that look? It's like curiosity and play,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know?
Exactly.
How do we get there without drugs?
Breath
Yeah.
work, meditation,
Yeah.
Yes.
surrounding ourselves with the right people,
Nature,
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 for
Ralph
sure.
exercise.
Ralph Steadman is like a famous artist. I don't know if you know who Ralph Steadman is, but he did like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, a lot of
Mm,
art surrounding that. But one thing that he said is that art has no rules. Everything is art. Fitness is art, right? I was
yeah.
listening to Huberman. You brought up Huberman. I
Hmm.
was listening to his Essentials yesterday, and he had a man on that was describing how he's a fitness trainer. He trained Conor McGregor, and he's describing how movement is art from your heart, and there's no rules. And I completely identify with that as a fitness trainer myself, like making that my art, because I see there's so many things that are recommended that or explored, but then like there's practices that I have employed that I notice that work and help, and that goes for like anything. Like you can use planting, you can
Hmm.
use fitness, you can use writing, you can use anything. You make it into art by injecting that play into it. Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's like, it's such a, like, art is just the magic that comes from your heart in general, in my opinion.
And
Is
I
it?
think even seeing it in other people, can that make you an artist if you're finding the art in the people around you and they might not be projecting that, but you can see that in others? Does that make you an artist because you can see it? Maybe.
Yes, because,
Okay.
well, because you're painting a picture in your mind, right?
Right. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
necessarily have to paint a picture on on a canvas to
Yeah.
create anything. Like
There's, yeah.
every single step is your art, right? Because we are built to create. Like the unfamiliarity and the uncertainty of life as we step forward in that curiosity and in that play is what produces the fruit that you see here sitting in front of you today on this podcast, right? Like that uncertainty in a hard time and difficult time full of friction and fear, and because like we were addicts, addicted, and Tori has had her own battles with that as well. So she understands the fear that's involved. It
Mm,
really is fear. It's us running from ourselves. Us running from our shame. And the fact that we were able to come back for full circle is like through uncertainty, through that fear, and find like a true north and make it to some place, some semblance of health, longevity, freedom from fear, freedom from shame, freedom from trauma. That's art.
Yeah.
yeah.
That is
Yeah. I
art.
mean, we think of art as like a painting or a photograph, but there's healing arts, there's martial arts, there's behavioral arts, there's visual arts, right? Like essentially, I think everything is pretty much art. It's just our, like you said, the shame the fear and our own self-judgment that gets in the way of us being in the flow state. I was listening to Rick Rubin, who is a producer for a lot of famous bands, and he
Mhm.
had a great talk that was saying like, you know, just being authentically yourself and creating. And he's like, I don't know how about the music industry or even how to use the equipment to make music, but I know what feels good and I know what sounds good for me and what I like. And when I did that, other people seemed to like that too. And it really took the pressure off my own self judgments for me of like, just live your life like as it's art. Like good or bad is subjective. What's, you know, good in the 1900s is, you know, bad now, or vice versa. Like it's so subjective. And just create for the sake of creating, and that goes for our life as well. And when I go work out, and I'm sure Jennifer can attest, and you, Tori, like you know, when I go work out and like eat healthy and do these things, to me it's art. That's my gift to myself. I'm creating. I'm creating my body. I'm creating the life that I want. I'm creating in these little moments who I want to be. And creation is art. But you know, another line of thinking too is I work with youth, and I think sometimes, wow, we're a product of our environment, and that has a heavy, you know, weight on changing our even genetics and turning them on and off, and how we respond to the world. But also, like, I think, wow, if I was, and who knows, maybe, you know, they say addict is an addict. Maybe I would have been addicted to hiking or art. You know, maybe I would be that extreme person, or maybe I would even segue back to drugs as an addict. Who knows? But I do know that if I was resourced more with, like, I hope that the youth I'm helping are becoming more resourced in nature and art and community, and getting these resources to get them back on track if they seem to be going a different way, that maybe it'll channel into something that they fall in love with, a passion that changes the course of their life. Because we had a youth that had a strong voice, and she was kind of going down a path that wasn't good. And I'm like, man, this girl is like a boss, you know, like she could be a boss, she could be a CEO. And but she was angry, like a lot of us. I know Jennifer's talked about like we're angry, and misplaced anger goes into destruction.
Mhm.
And we channeled her into, you know, she didn't really care about the garden program that much. They like that they get a stipend, and they like that they can hang out with friends. But like we channeled her into media arts, and she was able to make documentaries and have a voice, and it changed the course of her life. And that anger had a channel into a medium. And who knows if it was good or bad art? But guess what? It was powerful art because her voice was heard.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
really
that that's
amazing.
yeah, because like what were we starved for, Daria? Like same Toria. Like
Yeah.
what were
Yeah.
we starved for? Like we were starved for connection. Where were
Yeah.
Yeah.
like we were latchkey kids, right? Like we're like come back when the lights come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
And that you think that that is like that sounds great. Like you guys can do whatever you guys could do whatever you want. No, we got kicked out of the house. We weren't allowed to come back in. Yes, we were able to do what we want, but it also led us down roads because we didn't have connection. We didn't have anybody guiding us. We didn't have, we're just by yourself, bored. And then watching TV, everything on the media is geared to like dare. Um, in my opinion, Dare is one of the most detrimental programs ever created because if Dare officers had never come into my school, I would have never known about
Right.
many drugs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
And what was that one about the pan and an egg where it's like, this is your brain on drugs? And then they
Yeah.
went crazy, like smashing
Yeah,
things. And you're like, and then you smoke some weed and you're like, no, I'm okay. Like, I don't do that.
exactly.
like
Well,
I'm hungry.
exactly.
I
The
might
prop
smash some burgers.
exact smash some
I might
burgers.
smash these chips right now, but no,
Exactly.
no eggs.
The propaganda, I think for sure was detrimental because what it did for me, especially, is
Mhm.
I was I didn't want to be told what to do. If you would have educated me and shown me like, like the spectrum of the possibilities that could come from it, I probably would have made the right choice. But because I was told that I had to
Mhm.
sign a gosh, we had Red Ribbon Week here in Texas. I think they still do it here. I It just drives me nuts, but we had to sign a pledge saying that we would be drug free.
Oh, right.
And I was in high school and I looked at my teacher and I was like, I'm not going to sign this. And they go, why aren't you going to sign it? You're going to go do drugs? I said, no, I'm not doing drugs, but why do I have to sign a pledge? What is this piece of paper actually going to do? This actually
Yeah.
does nothing. This doesn't educate anybody in this room on what those drugs can potentially do to their life. You want to make a, like, they basically, if everybody signed the pledge, then our school got funding. Okay. Our
Yeah.
school got to have
Hmm.
a concert and we got funding and we were considered top Red Ribbon Week participants. That's
Yeah.
all bullshit.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, this isn't because I was sitting next to a kid in class that was K-holing in class and he signed the fucking pledge. So
Oh, yeah.
tell me how it was working. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
But because I vocalized that and I stood up to it, I mean, I even got threatened by my teacher. We're going to tell, because I was a student athlete, we're going to tell your coach. And I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
okay, tell my coach. And they're like,
They're
they're going to
losing
drug
money.
test you. And I was like, okay, like I said, I'm not doing drugs, but I'm not going to sign your stupid pledge. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But that was very much like my personality is if you tell me to do something and you
Uh,
don't give me a reason or like an understanding as to why it needs to be done, and it's just
yeah.
do it because I said to do it,
Yeah.
you get a whole middle finger and go fuck
Yeah.
yourself. And I'm going to go do me. I'm actually going to do the opposite. And I'm going to prove to you that I can do the opposite without it being exactly what you said it was going to be.
Yeah.
Like I was that kid, you know? And I mean, overall, it wasn't until I was in my later, like my senior year, by the time I was 18, I was working in bars and I was in the service industry. And so I was drinking. I was drinking in bars at 18 because, you know, they weren't great at IDing like they do now. So all I had to do was be a cute girl and walk in and know what the hell I wanted to order and act like I was supposed to be there. And I would get served every time. And
Hmm.
so alcohol really was what potentially I was going to be addicted to. And it
Mm.
started off very rough about 18. And then up until I was 21, I got pregnant with my son. And thankfully, my body would
Mm.
not allow me to drink and smoke and do the things that I was doing because I was pregnant. So, like, my body flipped on a switch. Now, my brain and my emotional state did not catch up to that for, like, I would say maybe 10 years.
Hmm.
So I was still fighting all of those same demons as to, I wanted to escape, right? Because that was what alcohol was for me. It was a number, it was an
Sure.
escape thing. I was able to socialize easy without any care in the world because when I'm sober, I'm very much concerned. I was a people pleaser. I'm a
Hmm.
recovering people pleaser as well.
Oh, same, same girl. It
Um,
still hit. It still hits.
Right. I still struggle with those things, but that was very much what alcohol did for me. It took away that need to please people. I felt like I could be a more true version of myself, but really that
Mm.
it wasn't a true version of who I was. And I struggled with that, even though I wasn't physically maybe addicted to alcohol in the sense that some people struggle with addiction, in a physical sense, very much mentally. And I mean, I
Mm.
mean, Jen can attest to this. It's been even in the past 10 years that I really don't drink anymore. I mean, I did it very socially, but I say that because the frequency was social.
Uh-huh.
However, the way I did it in that social setting was not social at all. It was
Sure.
I would drink until I was blackout drunk. You know, when I had the opportunity to drink, we would get shit faced. It wasn't just to
Yes.
get a buzz. That was,
Sure.
yeah, it was to
Yeah.
see how much we could get done and how much we could get away with because we had this window of time, especially for me, because I was a mother and married very young in my adult life.
Right.
And so, when I had the opportunity to be a regular 24-year-old person,
Mm.
quote unquote, that didn't have
Yeah.
responsibilities because my son was being babysat by grandparents for the weekend,
Sure.
I went balls to the wall
Yeah.
to the point where like it jacked up my body. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I didn't ever, I was very interesting hearing you guys talk about your experience in rehab because have said since my son was born that he saved my life. If I had
Mm,
not gotten pregnant with him, I would have gone to rehab because I was at the place before I got pregnant that where I woke up in the morning and I craved Jaeger and a Dos Equis. And
yeah,
that's what I wanted first thing in the morning. And that
yeah.
was just to take the edge off. And then I would just continue, it just went through it. And I was a functioning alcoholic at that time.
Hmm.
I worked drunk. I would drink until my body physically couldn't handle the liquid. And so I'd go and I'd make myself throw up so I could drink more. I was doing other substances to make sure that I was evening that out so I could
Sure.
continue to drink longer. And like, God, that's awful. I look back at it now and I'm like, oh my gosh, it was just an escape. All of it was an escape. And so
Yeah.
grateful that I was able to come through that because we talk about it all the time. Jennifer and I do. We look back at people that we used to hang out with and they're still in that same place.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's heartbreaking and devastating because you know the type of person that they are and you saw the potential in what they could be, but they never had the chance or the opportunity or they never took it to leave and to do something different. And they're still in the same place.
They're
Yeah.
literally still sitting on the same bar
Same,
stool right
exactly.
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
now, as we're having this conversation, there are people that I know, like I can tell you who is sitting where in
Uh-huh.
certain bars. Like me and Tori, I went down to Dallas. I live in Colorado. Tori lives in Dallas. I went down to Dallas to visit, and me and Tori met up with my friend to go to my friend's bar that he owns and I used to work at. And literally I walked in and I didn't even look at him. I patted the guy to my left on the back. Hey, Doug, how's it going? He looked at me like, who the fuck are you? Because I hadn't been there in like 7 years
Yeah.
or something like that. And I looked up and I'm looking around the bar and I'm seeing all the same faces. They haven't moved. They haven't changed their lives. They haven't done anything. They're just stuck. Like,
Yeah.
do I want to be stuck? No. What is keeping you stuck? I was watching today and yesterday In Waves and War with DJ Shipley. He was on Huberman also, and
Mm.
they're talking about psychedelic, um, doing ibogaine to heal PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a process that kind of I went through over the course of the last year or so with dream analysis and some things that I was doing that achieved what they were able to achieve with the Ibogaine process with no drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I'm going to develop that to try to see, like, maybe get it because I want to, like, as a course or something like that. I don't know. Like, I was just thinking through it, like, literally yesterday because, like, this facing your shame doesn't have to be something that you run from all the time. That running from the shame and running from the trauma is what keeps you stuck. That's
Yeah.
what keeps you sitting at on the same stupid bar stool for years and years and years, staying at the same job, staying with the same person, like not allowing rejection to be protection, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
allowing your life to flow. It creates like a stagnant flow. And how do you get past that? Well, you have to face it, you have to look at it. And a lot of times people blame themselves for the shame that they carry. So in order for them, it's impossible for them to look at it because they blame themselves so much. And like 80% of the time, it's somebody else's shit that caused you to act, that caused you to do this stuff. Somebody else working their shit or a lie that you were telling yourself or like whatever. But there's a million reasons why that shame exists. And if you confront those reasons and let them go, then you get back to flow. You can find your way back. And the fact that you have these kids that you get to show how to get to flow initially, like even if they have been on track now, like when we're
Mm-hmm.
small, that like those mirror neurons are still working, our brain is still developing, and for you to be able to, even if they had like a temporary like failure to launch moment, for you to be
Hmm.
able to guide them back to a place where they can feel comfortable to launch something that gives them joy. There's so many people that live and work and exist in this indoctrinated state and do nothing that brings them joy. And then
Hmm.
all day they're complaining about how broke they are and how hard life is and how many struggles they're dealing with, not realizing that they're setting more struggles up in their way by verbalizing it, because your words become action and then your action becomes matter. And so, like, just coming to that revelation that you can get back to flow. It's not too late. Even if you're 44 years old, I've said before, like the last time I felt like I was in that space of innocence and protection and love and grace until now at 44, but that I feel like my nervous system is calm. I have this peace that I've never had before because I've been able to face my shame and my trauma and all of that stuff. I was in the wilderness from age 4 to 44. That's 40 years in the wilderness trying to figure it out.
Significant.
It's significant, right? Like just walking in a circle, just
Yeah.
walking in a circle and complaining, right? Complaining about this or complaining about that. And you think like, well, maybe if I stop complaining, maybe if I shut up and stop being so filled with ego and selfish and worried about me and defending this and not being, my ego can't be accountable for this because it's going to make people think this of me. You know what?
Hmm.
Nobody even thinks about you. Like I hate to tell you, but nobody thinks about you. Everybody's thinking about themselves every single moment. Nobody is thinking about you. People think about you because they love you, but they don't think about you on that level to where like you can't be accountable for stuff. You can just be accountable and then they will think more of you because you were like, "Oh yeah, I did that. Let's fix it. Let's work together." You'll be seen as a safe person that removes blockages for them so that they can face their shame. Because whenever you see somebody embodying that safety, it gives you permission to safely step forward into your own shit. And I think that that's valuable for everybody. And if every single person can do it, like it's really just a matter of taking time for yourself to go inward and
Hmm.
sorting through your stuff. But you also have to give yourself grace and you have to have gratitude and you have to love and you have to maintain a positive mental attitude. Because the entire time, if you're just sitting thinking that everything's stacked against you, guess what? Everything is stacked against you, but you're the one stacking it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think you guys touched upon so many good things, and thank you, Terry, for telling your little bit of your story. I think, like I don't know who's helping who with the teenagers because I'm definitely healing my inner teenager, right? I'm doing EMDR therapy and my inner teenagers healing, and these kids are pretty phenomenal. And also, like, I wouldn't talk to them the way I talk to my inner teenager, right? And like parenting myself in that way. And also, you know, in the like the disease of addiction, whether it's social media or food or sex or drugs or whatever distraction from self, it's a disease of isolation, right? And so we think, and we have to figure it out ourselves. We have to numb it, just avoid it. And there's all these strategies, and some are socially acceptable strategies. Workaholism, you get rewarded for it in this society, but the disease of isolation needs the remedy of connection, right? And that's why I think, like, whether it's 12-step recovery or plant medicine that allows you to go within, but a lot of times they integrate with people in community,
Mhm.
and to get out of ourselves enough to be able to be vulnerable and to not let the shame freeze us into place, like maybe some of the people on the bar stool that are just frozen in place. and not able to reach out. And, luckily or unluckily, those tower moments in my life that brought me to my knees, that almost killed, us, was those alone didn't get me sober, right? Like I
Right.
wish, like all the lives I lost and other people or almost lost and other people lost and all the things and people and the shame and the disgust and all the things that happened. I wish that was like, oh, let me change my life. It was me with myself realizing that nothing's going to change. It's always going to be like this. Like I may die out there, but it's always going to be like this. Like I have no ability to change this. I need help. And in that help, I was willing to go into community. And in that community, because what's Brene Brown say, like shame spoken basically is what diffuses shame,
Yeah.
right? And then Gabor Mate says, don't ask why the addiction, ask why the pain.
Right.
Yeah.
And but then you brought up something, Terry, that really like made me think like where, I think it's an asset to be a young, uh, even a young punk kid that questions authority and questions things and it's not just signing things just, to go with the flow. Like that is an asset.
Yeah.
Because what do they say? It's like to be well adjusted to a sick society is no measure of health, right?
Right.
I think it's a
Yeah.
normal reaction, truthfully,
Right.
to be like, no, that's not right. But it
Hmm.
gets bred and indoctrinated out of us.
Hmm.
And then for me, I feel alone in society. I feel alone in my family. I feel alone. And to me, heroin, alcohol, whatever, people were my like a binky, like my safety blanket,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? And I didn't have tools to know otherwise or do otherwise. And until I learned those tools, I was stuck in that loop that Jennifer was talking about, because I didn't have the tools to. It's like there's a fierce part of me, the fierce teenager is like, no, fuck that. That's not right. That's not right. And
Hmm.
when everyone's just going in society and being like, no, that's okay. And I'm like, that's not okay.
Yeah.
But at the same time, how do you deal with that's not okay and trust my inner voice and not destroy it? Because I mean, sorry, I'm saying Gabor Mate because I just went to a workshop of his in San Diego and it just hit home. It was like we trade authenticity for safety.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I still do it in my people pleasing. No, like me. I don't really trust what you're saying is like true for me, but I'm gonna mistrust myself because I want to be in this group because I don't want to be alone, don't want to be abandoned, whatever it is. That's the inner work we have to work on.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I okay with being alone, or no, that doesn't vibe well with me, and I'm gonna go in this direction, or but it took also finding my people, like finding
Yeah.
my weird ADHD, like-minded, crazy people. And until I found those people, I felt really alone, even in sobriety. I had suicidal ideations up until maybe a couple years ago that I couldn't get rid of because of trauma. And it wasn't until facing those things that it finally went away. But I also had to find my people that were just, not that they had to have suicidal ideations, but that were like, dude, it's okay being weird. You're okay. Go make
Right.
art.
So I find it interesting. You brought up your ADD. The three of us are some neurospicy women who
Yeah.
grew up in the 80s and 90s when that wasn't diagnosed for women or for girls. It
Oh,
was only for boys who were hyper and who couldn't sit still. And it was extreme cases of that in that sense as well. And then they were immediately medicated. Um, I feel like that played a huge role in why I turned to substances to um, dull, numb things because my sensory overload might have been too much. Um, it made me feel quote unquote normal,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
even though I wasn't told I was abnormal, but I didn't feel normal.
Right.
I looked normal. I acted normal.
Right.
but I didn't feel normal. Jennifer, I know you can speak to this because you
Right.
just in the past few years have had some self-discoveries with that as well, right?
Mm.
Yeah, I didn't even know that I was different. And because I was surrounded by people that just wanted me to be normal.
Yeah.
And so they would demonize the things that I did that were neurodivergent
Mm.
and make it seem weird. And even whenever it was like nerdy stuff, like
Yeah.
whenever I'm like in depth understanding this thing, I would get yelled at because I in depth understood it and my dad didn't or
Yeah.
couldn't because of his limited brain capacity. Like my expanded brain capacity was somehow my fault, and because he felt inferior in moments of conversation, that he would lash out at me for it and act like there was literally nothing going on.
Mhm.
I like my mom, on the other hand, was also neurodivergent. It came from her, so she knew that there was something there. Like whenever I tested for my IQ, whenever I was like
Mhm.
sixth grade and it was off the charts. Um, my dad thought it was really cool because whenever I was in second grade, my I was testing crazy high and that made him look good.
Hmm.
Mhm.
But he didn't like that I could pick up on things. And
Mm.
he didn't like, and so he would try to keep me capped, my intelligence capped. So for a long time, it made me doubt myself.
Yeah.
And then speaking to what you said about feeling alone, Daria, is like I do feel alone a lot because I don't have many people that I can share these things that we talk about.
Right.
I don't talk about small talk. There's
Yeah.
no small talk that exists anywhere in an Uber, sitting in a waiting room.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it
You're definitely
does.
my people for sure.
Yeah, it doesn't happen. I'm asking you, like, what? Okay, how does that make your soul feel? And
Yeah.
by the time I'm walking out of the room from talking to that person, we've developed a connection that was beyond something that they've ever experienced.
Yeah.
Which is what I want whenever I connect with other people. And there's so many people, like I feel like people that aren't neurodivergent don't have that. They have the ability to just be like, have small talk and then move on, and
Hmm.
that's not something that I have. And then like people don't understand me when I talk because I know about all because my brain is like a filing cabinet and I
Yeah.
could tell you all of these facts. Oh, well, this is a fact about this and blah 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 and this happened and, and everybody's like, what the fuck? Stop talking. I have no
Yeah.
idea what you're saying. And so it can be isolating.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
like, so I appreciate being able, I always felt that with both you and Tori, that like that different connection that was like beyond. Like I could connect with you on a level that was a frequency vibe at the same, like it was like a center core similarity.
Hmm.
If you know what I mean, like I can't describe it as anything else because like we have completely separate, very different lives that we led leading up to when we met, both of us, like
Hmm.
both me, you, and Tori, like all of us.
Hmm.
But the center core vibration of who we are and that neurodivergence inside of us that was going undiagnosed, unseen, unspoken to, right?
Yeah.
And then also the shame and trauma that we carried that we were working through and the strength in it made this like nucleus of vibration that attracted us to each other.
Hmm.
And that is a beautiful thing, and it makes me completely believe in this awesome thing that me and my daughter were talking about, and that kind of helped me with this whole process of facing shame and trauma and all of the above. And that's the jeweled net of Indra. And the jeweled net of Indra is just how we are all connected consciously to each other.
Mm-hmm.
How we vibrate on that net whenever like we move and our vibration vibrates, it vibrates and it touches every single other crosshair on that net where somebody else exists.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that is powerful to understand, that we are all one and that our subconscious affects other people's subconscious, and that we should be mindful of that. So that we should be mindful of what we're putting into our subconscious as well. And that's how we can make another impact on a different level from what we've learned from rehab, dealing with trauma, facing trauma, gardening, dealing with youth, art, like all
Mm-hmm.
those things, you know? So I think it's really cool. Just beautiful thing that we were able to connect again.
Mm-hmm.
And that me and Tori have been able to just be connected all of this time. Me and Tori, actually, we were friends when we were little girls.
Aw.
And like five, I was five and she was like three, like
Yeah.
little girls. And we played together at my grandparents. It was my grandparents. I think it was her grandparents too, right, Tori?
Aw.
No,
I love that.
it was my family was living there. So we had just moved to the Dallas area, and so we were living in that apartment complex before we got into my first childhood home that I remember. But I vaguely remember that apartment complex. I was very young, but I do remember playing out in the street. Well, in the parking lot, right? Because that's what you do
Yeah.
in apartments. And so, and Jennifer was one of those people that I played with. And, when we met as adults, because we had both already had children by the time we met as adults, um, there was something we both just I was like, I know her. Like, I mean, not like I know her, like, where do I know her from? It wasn't like that.
Yeah.
It was just like this soul understanding of like, I know her, and there was a connection there. And then it wasn't until years later that we were driving by that specific apartment complex. It was many years later, right? It was
We had
about 10.
already, it was like right whenever it was 10 years ago. So it was like
Yeah.
right whenever I was moving out to Colorado. We were selling
Oh, wow.
something to a lady that was in that apartment complex. And I was like, and my grandparents used to live right there. And she was like, what?
I was like, that's the apartment complex that I lived in. And she
That's
was like, no,
crazy.
yeah, it
That
was
is
wild.
synchronistic. I love that.
And then we ended up raising our kids together like their whole lives,
I
literally. Like,
love
Exactly.
that.
it's so wild. But yeah, so like that understanding that we're all connected gives you also an understanding that that dude that's sitting in that seat stuck is an aspect of me too that's stuck, that I
Totally.
need to be looking at, right? And that I need to be shining a light on. Well, what else is stuck? What is there? Like always, it's always keeping that fire burning so that you keep all of those barnacles from like trauma and everything off. And you do that by facing it and actively looking for solutions and processing things and talking about it and having connection.
And channeling
Yeah.
your anger into different modes of art and creativity, because when you're young, the teenagers that you're working with, they don't have that type of understanding, right? So having people like you, Daria, that show them that they can do that, that they can channel those emotions into something, and then that gives them freedom because it
Yeah.
alleviates that from them having to carry it around, right? It frees them of that and it transmutes it, right,
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer, into
Yeah.
something else. And so that's, I think, I feel like on a regular basis, my purpose in this world has been to go through the struggles and the strife that I've gone through, because what I'm doing is I'm actively teaching not just my kids, but my children's friends around them, like a whole community, a whole generation of the next generation. I'm showing them things that took me and going through all of that bullshit to figure out, right? Now, they have to do their own learning as well, but giving
Sure.
them the tools to be able
Yes.
to be self aware, recognize things within themselves, and learn how to navigate that is going to give them a step up to where they're not 40 years old like we are going, okay, we're just now starting to understand ourselves and channel it and move forward, right? They're going
Yeah.
to be able to do that at a much younger age. And that in itself is going to change our world because those people will one day run our world. And we
Hmm.
have a direct impact on that. And they're going to be much healthier, emotionally regulated people because of the work that we're doing and what we share with them.
Yeah, I mean, look at the examples that we had, like of leadership in general. The fruits of that are showing right now, right? Like,
Yeah.
without going too much in the weeds on any kind of controversial topic, but at the same time, shining a light on you reap what you sow. And if you are sowing a bunch of seeds of dysfunction and self-serving, egotistical behavior, you're going to get the world that you have right now in the collective because it fragments everything. But instead, if you lead with your heart and teaching these kids, having us for parents to be able to teach them these tools at an earlier age gives them the opportunity to find that discernment faster, learn it quicker so that they can lead with their heart, so that the fruits of what they sow whenever we are gone for their children is an earth full of just productivity, effectiveness, love, light, abundance, like
Art.
alignment, art, like
Yeah.
the, there's no reason why that can't be a thing. Like, I hate looking online and you'll see somebody comment like, that will never happen because
Hmm.
this, and this. And it's like, it will never happen, right? Okay, you're an expert who's currently on your toilet taking a shit, giving me advice on life. Shut up, bro. Like,
Yeah.
you have
Behind the screen.
right.
Exactly.
You have no idea what you're talking about. How much inner work does it take for you to bump off a rude comment while you're sitting on the toilet pinching it off? Like,
Yeah. Well, he's quite literally full of shit.
like
Yeah, yeah.
it starts with us. It will happen if we make it happen.
That's
That's
right.
why I'm building a gym. That's why I'm connecting with my sisters. That's why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. That's why I'm building good health. That's why I'm trying to multiply that to people. I even told like one person, she was like, that's too much for me and my friend, like for a package or whatever. And I was like, okay, well, you just buy a package for yourself and then just sneak and give it to your friend. I don't even give a shit. And and she's like, "What? You don't care?" And I was like, "No, because the point is getting people healthy. The
Yeah.
point is multiplication of health. It's not making money. Making money, yeah, I have to eat, that's cool. But when it comes to like making an impact is more important to me than anything. Anything.
Yeah.
Changing things from from lack of community, division, anger, frustration that we grew up with. Those were the seeds that we were watching being sowed,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And we were luckily on the outside of it, watching it, being like, this is a train wreck, y'all. We all thought that the whole time. So it's not like we didn't notice it. So now we have an awesome opportunity to create beautiful prima materia and sow new seeds into these kids and pluck up these ridiculous bad plants that are crowding everything out and plant new things, plant
Yeah.
love, sow love into the ground, sow growth into the ground, sow the things that we're supposed to sow into the ground.
Mhm.
Compassion, empathy for your neighbor. Oh, so
And
important.
and also focusing on the solution, the positive. I think back to what you said about our brain scans, and I remember now that the brain scans at that wild rehab was to show us the damage we did to our brain, right? To scare us.
Yep.
And instead of like, I'm like, why did they see that I had ADHD then?
Right, exactly.
Why did they say, oh, look it, you're so active here, and like, and let's find a solution to this. Instead, it took me perimenopause and like a therapist to be like, I think you have ADHD. We can't do therapy until you get that addressed. And I'm like, what? So can you imagine a lifetime of shame thinking that it was me when it was a
Right.
disorder that That made me feel dumb. I didn't think I could do regular school. I later went and got my master's when I realized it wasn't me. It was just a issue that I was, you
Not
know,
even an issue, just something,
yeah,
a
not even an
challenge that
issue, just
like a
something that's
different
heightened.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just different.
It's a different
But
direction.
it's, that's a lifetime of even now where I bring it up more now because I have to tell myself, no, Daria, that's just your ADHD. But it feels like a moral thing. Like,
Yes.
why can't you just go do this? What's wrong with you? Kind of mantra that I have to work against that I don't want the youth and they don't because they see on social media, for better or worse, there's more normalizing of these things, right? But at the same time, I can see like, okay, you're not doing well in traditional school. Guess what? In the garden, you are great at doing this one task. Maybe another neurospicy person is great at picking little seeds from a plant. That would be a nightmare for me, right?
Yeah.
But for someone and each person has a task and that they can be good at and thrive in, right? And like, I think more so, uh, I don't know the answer to addictions. I know what I've thrown at my issues and my traumas and what I've faced and what the path I've taken and other people have taken. And that's worked to a certain extent for some people. I don't know what works for other people, but I do know that sitting with someone, especially youth, and being in community and breaking bread together and sharing from the heart and encouraging them to be their authentic self, whatever quirkiness or anger that we're channeling into weeding or art, and encouraging that authentic self to and showing that self can be loved just as they are it's more powerful than um, a lot of these modalities that I've thrown at myself. Just sometimes breaking bread with people and having this conversation. Sometimes being on a podcast and just having a conversation with like-minded people is the remedy for the soul, right? Um,
Exactly.
so we've come a long way since, the wits. Luckily, we lived through those times,
Yeah.
and
All
I'm
the times
grateful
after.
it's come full circle, and you guys have come full circle in your lives, and how you're synchronistically like met and raised kids together and doing a podcast. And it's just phenomenal to see those synchronicities because I think that if I was sitting on a bar stool doing the same old thing, there's no chance at seeing synchronicities because I'd be too much into my loop of a story to even see outside and see that there is like beauty happening. There is synchronistic, spiritual, and like what would you call it, like phenomena happening
Yeah.
that when we see that it's like, wow, we are connected.
I
We are.
remember like last week, I was thinking, like, I remember being selfish and self-serving and being in that lost space of shame and fear and drug addiction and everything else. And feeling synchronicity, I was just thinking this, like feeling synchronicity with other people, having connection, and feeling grateful and generous feels so much better in my nervous system, just in general, like in my energy, in my nervous system. And if you could bottle this feeling and give like somebody that was on drugs a taste, like, look,
Mm.
taste this. You will love it. It's gonna be so awesome. And then they could taste that because, like, that's what they want, that instant gratification. So it could be like a carrot, so that you could like dangle it and say, this is what you could have if you just look at yourself and go in. Um, I think it would be so awesome, but we don't have that. So what we can do is we can foster greater connections with people, homeless people, people, even people that are just not even homeless. Like I saw a guy, he was definitely not homeless. He was on his phone. He had like jewelry on, clean everything. He was just on drugs. And I just walked over there and I was like, let me pray. Let's sit down. I sat down, I prayed with him. I gave him a big ass hug. He asked me what I wanted him to pray for me for, and then that was it. that I guarantee you that something in his day changed because of that interaction, even if it was something small, right? Like, we don't know like what our butterfly wings of love do for other people, even if while we're just like opening a door for them, you
Yeah.
know? So it's so vital and important for us to make sure to be aware of that, because like when you're having a bad day, it's real easy to be grumpy with the guy at the gas station or whatever. But instead of flip it, and when you're having a bad day, be extra nice, so that it could like, so that you could see just like the feeling in that man's eyes light up, because that's what you need, and that's you sitting across from you, and
Yeah.
it'll feed you, you know.
Yeah.
We have to wrap this up, but I am
Yeah.
so grateful for this opportunity for us to reconnect, um,
Likewise.
and establish a friendship in this healthy space. And then I'm so grateful for Tori. I'm grateful for this podcast. I'm grateful for this opportunity for us to create new ways to make an impact.
Yeah.
Same.
Nice
I'm
to meet
grateful
you,
for you.
Tori.
Yeah, it was nice to meet
This
you
is
too, Daria.
this is like my favorite, meeting someone and jumping into these
Yeah,
conversations.
listen, this is what I live for. I hate the small talk. I want to know why your soul works the way it does. That's who I
Yeah.
am. So I love it. I love it. It was great.
And thank you both also, because you guys are mothers and you're doing work that is going to ripple out through your children and in the community. And then also, Jennifer, like the ideas and the manifestation of this gym, and the health in body, mind, and spirit that you're engaging on is truly powerful and phenomenal. I would go to your gym anytime, but also it can be a premise for hospitals, for institutions, because uh, it's not holding health in a lot of institutions that we have in our society, and that could be a good premise. And so I hope we can continue this conversation. And there's so much more, and we haven't even talked about the physical stuff, like,
I
you know,
know.
Yeah.
so maybe next time we can talk about the physicality. I love that we talked about spirit and all the segues into
Yeah. Well, maybe we
other
have a
things.
part two.
Ooh,
I would
part
love
two.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the Titanic.
Well, we
It's so long it takes two
like
cassettes.
like the iceberg, not like the iceberg of the Titanic. We've been the
Just the
Titanic.
cassette tapes.
Yeah, just the two VHS. It's like midway and you're like, it's so good. And they're like, please insert the next tape.
Yeah, and then you wind it. Only our age
Exactly.
will know.
Be kind, rewind.
Yeah. Oh man.
I love you, ladies. I hope you guys have a wonderful, beautiful day, and
Likewise.
we will
Love
do
you
this again
too.
very soon. See you guys
Sounds
Okay,
later.
good.
bye.
Bye.
Bye.